The call came at 2 a.m. Zara was asleep when her phone lit up the ceiling. She grabbed it without thinking, the way you do when your body already knows it's not good news. Unknown number. Sole prefix. Miss Mensah. A woman's voice. Precise. Cold. The particular coldness of someone delivering a message they didn't write. You need to leave Korea. Tonight. There is a car waiting outside your hotel. It will take you to a private airstrip. No passport check, no record. You will be in Lagos by morning. Zara sat up slowly. The room was dark. The city outside doing its usual thing. Indifferent, glittering. "Who is this?" she said. "Someone who is trying to help you before it becomes impossible to do so." "And if I don't get in the car?" A pause. Measured. Like the woman on the other end was deciding how much to spend on this conversation. "Then what happens next," she said, "will not be something General Cha can undo." The line went dead. Zara held the phone and looked at the city for a long moment. Then she called Junho. He picked up on the first ring, which meant he hadn't been sleeping either. "Someone just offered me an exit," she said. "Private airstrip, no record, Lagos by morning." Silence on his end. Then very quietly, "Don't go. Give me a reason." "Because that car doesn't go to an airstrip." His voice was controlled, but I could hear the thing underneath it, the thing he kept in the basement of himself. That's Park Moojin's play. He gets you in a car with his people, and suddenly you're not a foreign national with a flagged passport. You're a missing person. And a missing person connected to me is a scandal that ends my career and buries you somewhere no one looks. The room felt colder than it had 30 seconds ago. He'd actually do that? Not a question. He ended a colonel's marriage with a photograph. He had a general's son arrested on fabricated charges to get a vote changed? Yes. A pause. He would absolutely do that. Zara looked out the window. Somewhere below, presumably, a car was waiting. "Okay," she said. "Okay, you're staying?" "Okay, I'm not getting in the car." She stood up, moved away from the window on instinct. "What now?" "Now I come to you. Don't open the door for anyone else. Don't go near the windows." I heard movement on his end, the sounds of a man already in motion. "Zara, I'm here. I'm sorry. This escalated faster than..." "Come," she said. "We talk when you're here." He arrived in 18 minutes. No uniform this time. Dark clothes, no insignia, nothing that announced him. 2 men came with him who positioned themselves in the corridor without being told. He came through the door and looked at her the way he'd looked at the press conference footage, like a man conducting damage assessment on something he valued. "You're not hurt," he said. "I'm not hurt." He exhaled. Just slightly. Just enough for her to see it. "Sit," she said, because he looked like he needed to and wouldn't do it without permission. He sat. She sat across from him. The room between them had the specific quality of a space where serious things were about to be said. "Tell me everything," she said. "Not the managed version. Everything." He looked at her for a moment. Then he started talking. Park Moo-jin had been building a case for 8 months. Not against Junho specifically, against anyone who stood between him and the Joint Chiefs nomination. Junho was the last obstacle. Clean record, strong command history, the respect of people Park Moo-jin needed votes from. To remove Junho, he needed a story, and stories needed characters. The gala had been deliberate. Park Moo-jin's people had flagged Junho's attendance 3 weeks in advance. They'd positioned an operative inside. They had been waiting for Junho to do something human, to talk to someone, to show interest, to be anything other than the untouchable general. And Zara had walked in wearing an emerald dress and raised a paddle at him like he was an ordinary person. And he had, catastrophically, responded like one. He didn't manufacture the photo, Junho said. He just waited for me to give him something real. And you did, Zara said. And I did. She held that. It wasn't accusation. She wasn't angry, or not exactly. It was just the fact of it, sitting between them, solid and unavoidable. So what does he want? She said. Ultimately, what ends this? My withdrawal from the nomination. Then withdraw. He looked at her. Junho, she leaned forward. I'm serious. Is a title worth this? Worth whatever he does next? It's not about the title. His voice was quiet but certain. The Joint Chiefs seat controls resource allocation for the next defense cycle. If Park Moo-jin sits in that seat, 3 programs that protect civilian populations get defunded. I've watched him operate for 4 years. He treats the military like a business and civilians like a liability. He paused. I'm not withdrawing. Zara looked at him for a long moment. Then we need a different play, she said. We? He repeated. Don't look at me like that. I'm already in it. My name is already in his documents. My face is already on his surveillance footage. She held his gaze. I'm not a bystander anymore. So yes, we. Something shifted in his expression. Not surprise exactly. More like a man watching a door open that he'd assumed was locked. You should be afraid, he said. I am afraid, she said simply. That doesn't change the math. They worked until 5 a.m. Not romantically, practically. Junho on the phone with his legal team, Zara on her laptop cross-referencing the Kona Foundation's documentation. Both of them building the case that she was exactly who she said she was. Nothing more, nothing less. Jisoo appeared at 3:30 with coffee and food without being called, and Zara decided she would send Jisoo a very serious gift when this was over. At 4:45, Junho's legal lead called with something. Zara watched his face as he listened. Watched the shift. Not relief. More like the expression of a man who has just seen which direction the battle is actually moving. He hung up. Park Moo-jin's operative at the gala, he said. The one who took the photo. He's freelance. Not officially connected to Park's office. Which means Park Moo-jin built a firewall between himself and the operation. If we expose the operative, Park walks away clean. He set his phone down. But the operative is freelance, which means he sold to the highest bidder, and he may have sold to others. Zara understood immediately. There are more photos. There may be more material, from the restaurant, from the market. His jaw tightened. From the hotel. The room was very quiet. Zara thought about the market, the grandmother with the flowers, the ceramic bowl, Junho talking about his mother's kitchen like it was the most private thing he owned. If he has footage from the market, she said carefully, that's not a political story anymore. No, his voice was even. That's a personal one. And personal stories, in the wrong hands, did different kinds of damage. We need the operative's name, she said. My team is working on it. How long? Hours, maybe less. She looked at him. And until then, he looked back at her. The 5 a.m. light was doing something to the room, making it softer, more honest, the way very early morning strips away the performance of things. He looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. The kind of tired that comes from years of being the most controlled person in every room. Until then, he said, we wait. I'm bad at waiting, she said. I know. The corner of his mouth moved. You raised a paddle at me across a crowded room. You don't strike me as patient. You noticed that immediately. I noticed everything immediately. He held her gaze. That was the problem. He looked at her for a moment. Then he started talking. Park Moo-jin had been building a case for 8 months. Not against Junho specifically. Against anyone who stood between him and the Joint Chiefs nomination. Junho was the last obstacle. Clean record, strong command history. The respect of people Park Moo-jin needed votes from. To remove Junho, he needed a story. And stories needed characters. The gala had been deliberate. Park Moo-jin's people had flagged Junho's attendance 3 weeks in advance. They'd positioned an operative inside. They had been waiting for Junho to do something human. To talk to someone. To show interest.
The operative's name was Lee Sang-woo. They had it by 7 a.m. Freelance intelligence contractor, 3 verified connections to Park Moo-jin's network over 4 years, currently operating out of an apartment in Mapogu. Junho's team had his phone records, his payment trail, and the specific encrypted folder on a cloud server that contained everything he'd captured. Can we get to the folder? Zara asked. Not legally. That wasn't what I asked. Junho looked at her for a moment. You're asking me to authorize something that, if it surfaces, confirms every narrative Park Moo-jin is building about me. I'm asking you if it's possible. It's possible. Then, but we don't need to. He turned his laptop toward her. His legal lead had found something else. Lee Sang-woo had a problem. Specifically, Lee Sang-woo had 4 other clients he'd been surveilling simultaneously. And one of them was a sitting member of the National Assembly who had very serious feelings about being surveilled. He's exposed from 6 directions, Loon said. We don't need to break anything. We just need to make sure he knows we know. You want to flip him. I want him to understand that his current arrangement with Park Moo-jin is significantly less safe than an alternative arrangement. Zara thought about it. He'll want something in return. Immunity from the assembly member, which I can arrange. And Park Moo-jin loses his firewall, loses his documentation, and loses the story. He looked at her steadily. Your passport gets cleared. You go home. It's over. It was clean. It was smart. It was exactly the kind of move that had made Cha Junho the last man standing between Park Moo-jin and what he wanted. Zara should have felt relieved. When? She said. My team meets with Lee Sang-woo. My team meets with Lee Sang-woo this afternoon. She nodded, looked at her hands, looked back up. And then I go home, she said. And then you go home, he confirmed. The words landed in the room and sat there. Neither of them moved to pick them up.
The meeting with Lee Sang-woo happened at 2 p.m. in a noodle restaurant in Mapo-gu that Junho's team had swept for surveillance the night before. Junho went himself. Zara knew he'd gone himself before he told her, because Lieutenant Bae appeared at the office on the 14th floor at noon, with instructions for her to stay inside, and an expression that said the general had given those instructions personally and with feeling. She stayed inside. She tried to work, filed 2 reports, answered emails, called her director, and gave the version of events that was true enough. It's resolving. I'll be home soon, without being complete. She sat at the desk by the window and looked at Seoul and thought about what home would feel like now. Lagos, her apartment, the heat and the noise and the smell after rain that she had described to a man in a market who had stood very still and listened like she was telling him something he needed. She thought about the fact that he had looked up direct flights. She thought about what it meant that she had been glad. Jisoo knocked and entered with tea, set it down without ceremony, started to leave. Jisoo, Zara said. She turned. How long have you worked for him? 6 years. Is he... Zara stopped, reformulated. Does he do this? Bring people into his world like this? Get involved? Jisoo was quiet for a moment. The careful quiet of someone who is loyal and also honest, and is deciding which one to lead with. In 6 years, she said, you are the first person he has brought to the market. She left. Zara held her tea and sat with that.
Junho was back by 4. She knew it went well before he said anything, not because he looked relieved, but because he looked like a man who had executed something precisely and was allowing himself exactly 2 seconds of satisfaction before moving to the next problem. Lee Sang-woo cooperated. He said, "Everything? Everything. The folder is ours. The documentation is retracted. He's signing a statement confirming the origin and intent of the surveillance operation." He sat down across from her. "My legal team files with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs tonight. Your passport should clear by tomorrow morning." Tomorrow morning? That was fast, she said. I was motivated. She looked at him. He looked back. The late afternoon light coming through the south-facing windows made everything in the room look like it was made of something warmer than it actually was. "There's something else," he said. She waited. Park Moo-jin knows we flipped Lee Sang-woo. He'll know within the hour if he doesn't already. He held her gaze. He's going to move faster now. He has other operatives, other angles. Tonight, he will try to do something that doesn't require Lee Sang-woo. What does that mean for me? It means tonight is the most dangerous night of this entire situation. Once your passport clears tomorrow, he has no leverage. But tonight, he stopped. "Tonight, I'm still here," she finished. "Tonight, you're still here." She thought about the car that had waited outside her hotel at 2 a.m. The woman's voice. What happens next will not be something General Cha can undo. "What do you want to do?" she said. "I want to move you somewhere he doesn't know about, somewhere off his surveillance map." He paused. "My mother's house." Zara blinked. "Your mother's?" "She died 20 years ago. I kept the house. I've never used it for anything connected to my work. It's not in any file Park Moo-jin has access to." He looked at her steadily. "It's 2 streets from the market." The market. The ceramic bowl. The grandmother with the flowers. She understood what he was offering. Not just safety,
but something he'd never offered anyone. The most private geography he owned. "Okay," she said.
The house was small, not in the way of poverty, but in the way of intention. A home built for warmth, not impression. Wooden floors worn smooth, a kitchen that faced east, so the morning light came directly through the window. Old furniture that had been chosen by someone who cared about how things felt rather than how they looked. It smelled, very faintly, of cedar and something she couldn't name. Junho stood in the doorway of the kitchen while she looked around. He'd been here before. She could see it in the way he moved through the space, how he didn't need to look for light switches, how his hand went to the kitchen counter automatically. Muscle memory from a life he'd mostly stopped living. "You never sold it," she said. "No." "Why?" He was quiet for a moment, looking at the east-facing window. "Because selling it felt like finishing something I wasn't ready to finish," he said. She looked at him across the kitchen. The general, the strategist, the man who had stood in front of cameras and said her name like she was nothing, and then booked flights to Lagos in the dark. "Tell me about her," Zara said. He looked surprised. People didn't ask him that. She could see it in his face, the slight recalibration. "She was loud," he said finally. "Not aggressively, just present. You always knew she was in a room." She had opinions about everything, and she delivered them like they were facts, and somehow they usually were. He looked at the counter. She would have had opinions about you. Good or bad? Both. The corner of his mouth moved. She would have said you were too bold for your own good, and then she would have asked you to stay for dinner. Zara smiled. She sounds wonderful. She was the only person who ever told me the truth without calculating what it cost them first. He looked at Zara. Until about 10 days ago. The room was very quiet. Outside, Seoul murmured. 2 streets from the market. A city doing what cities do, living around the edges of the small, enormous things happening inside its buildings. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it. Unknown number. Different prefix than the 2 a.m. call. International this time. She answered. Zara Adaize Mensa. A man's voice. Smooth. The smoothness of someone who had prepared what he was going to say and had enjoyed preparing it. "I believe we have some mutual interests to discuss." She looked at Junho. Something in her expression made him go very still. "Park Mujin," she said. Not a question. A pause. Then a sound that might have been approval. "You're quick," he said. "I can see why he likes you." "What do you want?" "What I've always wanted. His withdrawal from the nomination. But since I'm a reasonable man, I'm prepared to offer a trade." Another pause. Waited. "You for his ambition. He steps back. You go home clean. Whole. No more complications." Zara kept her voice even. "And if he doesn't? Then I release everything Lee Sang-woo collected. Not just the photograph. Everything. The market, Miss Mensa, the restaurant, the hotel." His tone didn't change, but something in it sharpened. "There are images from the hotel that would be very difficult for a woman in your professional position to explain. And in today's media environment..." "Stop." Her voice came out harder than she intended. "I'll give you until midnight," Park Mujin said pleasantly. "Discuss it with him. He's standing right next to you, I assume. He usually is these days." The line went dead.
Zara lowered the phone.
Junho was watching her. He had heard enough. She could tell from his face, the stillness that was not the practiced stillness of the general, but the specific stillness of a man controlling something violent inside himself. "He has footage from the hotel," she said. "Yes. Of us. Yes." She held that. The specific quality of being surveilled in a moment you thought was private. The retroactive exposure of something that had belonged only to you. "He wants you to withdraw," she said. "I heard. And you're not going to." He looked at her. "Zara. Don't." She stood up. "Don't make this about protecting me. Don't make me the reason you back down from something that matters." She held his gaze. "Tell me the actual play. Not the version where you sacrifice the thing you've been working toward for years because of footage that shouldn't exist. Tell me how we beat him." He stared at her for a long moment. "The footage from the hotel," he said carefully, "is only damaging if it's released. If we release it ourselves, on our terms. Before he does. Controlled, contextualized." He was thinking aloud now, the strategic part of him engaging with the problem the way she'd watched him engage with everything, directly, without flinching. "If we go public first, you and I, together, with a clear account of what happened from the moment of the photograph to now, Park Moo-jin's version loses its power. He was waiting to expose a secret. There's no secret left to expose." "We go public," she said slowly. "With all of it. With enough of it. The gala, the passport flagging, his operative, his midnight car." He held her gaze. "Not the private things. Just enough to show Korea exactly what he did and why." "That still puts me in the story," she said. "Publicly. Permanently." "Yes." She looked at the east-facing window. The kitchen her mother had used every morning. The worn wooden floors. "My director will lose her mind," she said. "Probably. My mother will call every relative I have. Almost certainly." She looked at him. "If we do this, it doesn't end when my passport clears. My name stays in the story. In your story." "Yes," he said, quietly, clearly, like a man who understood exactly what he was asking. "Is that what you want?" she said. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides and stopped in front of her, close enough that she could see the exhaustion and the certainty in his face simultaneously. The strange coexistence of a man who was both tired and completely sure. "I looked up flights to Lagos," he said. "I looked up the neighborhood you mentioned, the market near your apartment, the rainy season schedule." He held her gaze. "I have been building a case for why I should follow you since the night at the restaurant. That's not strategy, Zara. That's not management." He paused. "That's a man who knows what he wants for the first time in 12 years and is terrified of what happens if he handles it incorrectly." She looked at him for a long moment. "You're not handling it incorrectly," she said. "I got you surveilled in your hotel room." "Park Moo-jin got me surveilled in my hotel room. There's a difference." "I should have..." "Junho." She said his name the way she'd said it in the hotel room, the night of the press conference, her hand against his chest, the way that made him stop. "Stop punishing yourself for the thing you didn't do and tell me what we do next." He looked at her. The general. The man in his mother's kitchen. Both of them, somehow, at once. "We call my communications director," he said. "Tonight. We build the statement. We release it at 6 a.m. before the news cycle starts. He paused. And then, whatever comes, it comes. Together, she said. Together, he said. Outside, midnight was coming. Park Moo-jin's deadline moving toward them like weather. Inside the house, 2 streets from the market, a man who had been efficient at his life for 12 years, and a woman who had come to Seoul for 3 days, sat at a worn kitchen table and built something that neither of them had planned for, and both of them had needed. Somewhere across the city, Park Moo-jin waited for a withdrawal that wasn't coming. He didn't know yet what was. He would know by morning. At 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes before his deadline, Junho's communications director sent the statement to 7 major outlets simultaneously. At 11:59, Zara posted it herself. Her name, her account, her voice. Unmanaged, unpolished, entirely true. At midnight, Park Moo-jin's phone started ringing. He didn't answer. By 12:15, the statement was trending. By 12:30, 3 assembly members who had been sitting on the fence about the Joint Chiefs nomination had called Junho's office. By 1 a.m., Park Moo-jin had issued a response that satisfied no one and confirmed everything. Zara read it from the kitchen table, in a house 2 streets from the market, Junho beside her. Both of them exhausted in the specific way of people who have done something irreversible and know it and feel, despite everything, completely calm.
"It's done," she said. "That part is done," he said. She looked at him. "What's the next part?" He reached across the table and took her hand. Not dramatically, just took it. The way you take something you've decided is yours. "Lagos," he said. "Rainy season. The market near your apartment." He looked at her steadily. "I want to smell the rain." Zara looked at this man, this impossible, controlled, quietly wrecked, completely certain man. She turned her hand over and held his back. "It rains in April," she said. "You'll need to book early. The hotels near me fill up." "I won't need a hotel," he said simply. The kitchen was quiet. Outside, Seoul moved on. 2 streets away, a market was sleeping. Somewhere, a grandmother with flowers was dreaming something peaceful. And Park Moo-jin, across the city, was staring at a trending statement and understanding, for the first time, that he had made a catastrophic miscalculation. He had used the woman to break the general. He had not anticipated the woman breaking open the general's entire life instead, and the general walking through the opening without looking back. He had not anticipated that at all. Besties, he chose her over the silence he'd built for 12 years. She stayed when she had every reason to run, and Park Moo-jin just made it personal. Episode 3 is where it gets dangerous in ways none of us are ready for. If you're as hooked as I am, smash that like button, drop a comment with your theories for what happens next, and subscribe so you don't miss part 3. Trust me, it gets even wilder.